You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Everyone starts somewhere. You know, if you either go to film school for 4 years and then you work as an intern, you bust your ass and you take baby steps and you get somewhere and you're very, very proud of that place, or usually you just dream about it and everyone tells you all the time that you're not prepared, you're not ready, you can't do anything, blah, blah, blah. Well, my opinion on this is you should go and do whatever you can. If the only way you can get into film is to be a PA, then do it. If the only way you can get into a film is to be an extra, do it.
Hey everyone, thank you again for hitting that play button. I am your host, Dave Bullis, and this is the Dave Bullis Podcast, but I'm pretty sure you already knew that because you had to press that play button in the first place. So before we begin, Jason Buff over at Indie Film Academy suggested something to me, and I've been mulling it over the past couple of days, and that is about changing the name of the podcast to actually give more information about what it's about. So instead of just the Dave Bullis Podcast, it would be something like the Dave Bullis Film School. Let me know what you think. Shoot me an email, tweet me. It's, at Dave_Bullis. Let me know what you think about that, because I think that's actually a really good idea. I think the Dave Bullis Podcast doesn't tell enough for people who don't know what it is. And I think if I did change it to something like the Dave Bullis Film School or some other variation, I think it would have a lot more impact. So again, let me know what you think. Like I said, I want to hear more from you in general. I'm always trying to expand this podcast. I'm always trying to improve this podcast. So tell me, what do you want to see more of? What do you want to see less of? You want to see less of me? I guess, just let me know. And speaking of which, I actually ran into an old coworker at the store. It was one of those situations where I was like, I saw her and I did a double take. I'm like, wait, that woman kind of looks familiar. And she turned and I was like, I didn't want to, get into a whole conversation with her, because you've been in those conversations before. And she looked at me and just made this like weird face, like she was surprised she saw me, or who knows, maybe she was horrified at my appearance. I don't know, like most people are, which is probably a good guess. But but luckily we were like two ships in the night. We just passed really quickly, and so I avoided another awkward situation. My life is like George Costanza, everybody. So if you ever want to know what my social interactions are like, or my relationships like with parents and girlfriends, George Costanza. Just watch Seinfeld, and instead of watching George Costanza, just imagine his name is Dave Bullis. Same way, same look, same everything. I have a little more hair than George, but other than that, everything's exactly the same. But just moving on, our guest this week is an actor who has starred in Hot Pursuit, Vice Principals, and the new Follow Friday on Sci-Fi. Hella talented guy. Tons of quotes in this episode. Trust me, you'll want to listen to this more than once. This is episode 131 with guest Joe Poliquin, or as I call him, JP.
You're listening to the Dave Bullis Podcast.
Hey, JP, thanks a lot for coming on the show.
No problem, man.
So, JP, I've been looking at your IMDb, and I wanted to ask, about how you got started in the film industry. So, basically, did you always want to be an actor?
I did. I think a lot of people do, but I didn't see it as a possible career for me until it just kind of fell in my lap.
So how did it fall in your lap?
Well, I came out to L.A. in 2011. Came out and lived in Hollywood. Met up with Don Barris. I was sitting on the Hollywood Boulevard playing music one night, and a guy gave me a free ticket to go see Incubus at Jimmy Kimmel. And I went in there, and Don called me on stage to display a talent. And I ended up making up a song with Cleto and the Cletones and dancing with Don on Jimmy Kimmel's stage. And one thing led to another. We became really good friends. He got me on as part of his Ding Dong show for like half a year at the Comedy Store. Every Monday I was going and hang out with Don, and it was a great experience. And I transitioned from just doing music to doing improv to doing stand-up. And then from stand-up, I being back on stage, and it was very theatrical. It reminded me of like when I was really young and I was doing like local theater and, church plays and stuff like that. And whenever I came back, Robert Downey Jr. told me, you should go back to Louisiana. I just got a house out there, and that's where the industry's going. And I was like, really? Because at first I thought, when Robert Downey Jr. tells you to go home, tells you something's up. But, my girlfriend was back in Louisiana, and my grandfather was getting sick at the same time. So I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to go back home. Maybe it's time to settle down for a little while. And I went back to Louisiana, and the film industry, sure enough, it went to Louisiana, it traveled out there, and they were hiring locals left and right. So, I was, I'll try this out. So we got a few background jobs on films so that we can learn about being on set. And that led to me getting a few featured parts where I was actually in the punchline of some, pretty big jokes with some pretty big actors. And I just fell in love with it. I was smitten, and I thought, what if there really is a chance that this could lead into an acting career? And, I just gave it everything I had and started submitting left and right, taking it really, really serious. Me and my girlfriend both were going to acting classes, but we were learning from the best. And then, if we couldn't physically get to these coaches' classes, we would do whatever we could to find their class online and just learn everything we could about the art, the art, and own our craft. And next thing I know, I got an audition for, I can't say what it is, but it's a comic book adaptation, a comic book character brought to life, and it was like the biggest audition I ever got in my life, and that was the first of all the big auditions that we received. And my agent called me up one day and told me, yeah, there's a role somebody's looking for. They've been calling you all day. I was like, oh yeah. Here's my new number. Tell them to call me if they need to talk. And they called me up, and it was the guys that did Sharknado. And I had no idea until I got to set in Virginia. Once I got the part after auditioning, and I think the rest is history.
JP, we have a lot in common. Not only do we both know Don Barris, but I actually had on some of the guys who did Sharknado on the podcast as well.
Oh, cool.
So like literally left and right, I'm like, oh my God, I know that guy too. Hey, all right.
Right.
Because, it's funny you mentioned about Louisiana becoming a film hub. I actually had a friend of mine who worked in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Here in Philadelphia where I am, and he was a crew guy, and he did a lot of audio work. And he said, I was thinking about going to Georgia, and then he said, well, you know what, Louisiana, all I hear is all these projects down there, left and right. So he goes down there, and he stayed down there.
Yeah.
He hasn't been back since. And he loves it down there. The big reason that Georgia and Louisiana have such great, film industries right now is because they have the uncapped, tax credit rebate, and that's why all the productions have gone there. So Robert Downey Jr. was right.
Yeah, very, very right.
So I wanted to ask about going on just about Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, what was that like as an experience? Just being able to get up there. I mean, that sounds freaking amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd been to Jimmy Kimmel like 2 times before that, so I'd been in the audience. You can go to oneiota.com and get free tickets to go see Jimmy Kimmel. So I'd been in the audience, and I'd seen Don, and my dad was a big fan of Don's, and a big fan of the Windy City Heat movie. I don't know if you saw that. It was great.
Oh, I love Windy City Heat.
It was so great. And it's got Dane Cook in it. It's got a bunch of amazing cameos in it. But so I'd seen the movie, and whenever I saw Don, I'd always thought of him as like that guy, the warm up guy, the co-host for Jimmy Kimmel. And he called a lady up, and I don't want to go rehashing too much of this because I did talk about this on his podcast earlier this week. But yeah, he called a lady up. The lady was in a beautiful dress, but it turned out she was doing a Daffy Duck impression. So it gave me the balls to get up there for once and try it myself. He always calls people down there. Yeah, come down here and show us what you got, show us your talent. So I went down to the stage once he called me up, and he asked me what I was going to do, and I didn't have my acoustic with me or anything like that. So I was like, yeah, I'm just going to make up a song. And he goes, oh, what are you going to make up? I was like, I don't know. And I looked over at Cleto and Cletones, and I was like, yeah, can you guys just play anything? Just anything in whatever key? I don't care. I'm just going to make it up to whatever you play. And it was really a dream come true because Dickie Barrett from the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones is there too. And, he kind of got a crack out of it. And me and Don ended up dancing, and one thing led to another, and Don's grabbing my ass on stage while I'm singing, and then I turn around and he whispers in my ear, and he's like, "Grab my ass." So I had to turn around and grab his ass, and it was a great experience, man. It was funny, it was fun, and afterwards I hit Don up on Twitter. And I was like, yeah, it was one of the best experiences of my life. I'm glad I got to meet Don Barris, but I'm even more glad I got to dance with him on stage and get molested by him. And so he hit me up and he was like, hey, man, I checked out some of your videos on Facebook. You're a good guitarist. You should come to my show and play music tonight, or just come to my show tonight. And, I ended up becoming like part of his show. And he would take me back to Jimmy Kimmel. I'd go backstage on Jimmy Kimmel with him like every night. And it became like, I was kind of his assistant for his comedy show. I would go to Jimmy Kimmel and pass out flyers for people to come to the Ding Dong show. So, it was a never boring experience ever. Definitely fun.
Yeah, I've seen Windy City Heat probably like 10,000 times.
Nice, man. He's one of those.
Yeah, for everyone listening, I'm actually going to link to the video of Windy City Heat because they've actually uploaded it to YouTube. Every year when I have a Christmas party, that's one of the things that I put on is Windy City Heat, because the people who haven't
movie.
well, the people, because I get everyone together. That's when everyone actually has time, and I get everyone together and I put on Windy City Heat. And for those who haven't seen it before, they're like, they're trying to wrap this head around, this guy Perry Caravello, who is in of itself. There's two things I like, JP, and I told this to Dom when I had him on, is I like practical jokes, and I also am fascinated by people who live on the fringe of society, and Perry is both. Yeah. And Windy City Heat is, it involves both, and I was like, that's why I love this movie so much, because Perry is just such an odd dude.
Yeah, he is.
And the fact that this whole movie is a big practical joke on him is even funnier. It's brilliant, and it's funny, and you're like, where the hell is this going to go?
Yeah.
And I don't want to ruin the ending for anybody, but I didn't see that coming at all. I thought it, it's so weird. And so JP, I wanted to ask also is, did you ever get to meet Perry?
Yeah, oh yeah, he's actually a fucking really funny guy, man. He's really fun. Pardon my French, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to.
Oh yeah, you're allowed to curse.
All right, cool. Oh, yeah. Perry, I worked as an engineer one night for I was filling in for their engineer on the Big Three podcast, and Perry's a funny guy. I just think all three of them make a great family. Like, it's like the new age Three Stooges, but it doesn't rip off of the Three Stooges style or anything. It's brilliant, man. Like you said, it really is good. But they all, Mole, he has like a reoccurring, role in the Jimmy Kimmel show. He always comes in as like if you watch any of the skits on Jimmy Kimmel, you'll see Mole pop up in many different places. He's also a voice on Rick and Morty. So like these guys are like always behind the scenes in the industry or sneaking around in the industry. They love it. They're just really amazing guys. And then to top it off, they have a great movie. But Perry's the kind of guy that like I don't want to give away too much of the lore, because there's a lot of mystery that surrounds the Big Three. He's the kind, he really respects Don. He respects the fact that even though Windy City Heat is, like you said, it's a practical joke, he is a comedian at heart, and he respects Don, and he's happy that he had the chance to be in that movie.
Yeah, sometimes that's why when I see Perry go off on social media,
right?
Well, here's a funny story for you. I actually invited Perry to come on this podcast.
Oh,
and his response was, I always get ripped off by Don for coming on podcasts, so why would I come on yours? And I said, Perry, you could call from your house. I said, you don't have to drive anywhere, because I don't know if you saw, but he was asking for money. He needed money for an emergency, he said. And I said, Perry, look, I usually don't do this, but I'll give you $20. You come on the podcast. I said, you can talk about whatever you want. When would you see the heat? And his response was, JP, and I quote, blow it out your ass.
Oh my God.
and I responded back with, I said, Don, have you seen this? And he goes, I wouldn't give that greaseball a nickel. And I said, that's pretty much where I'm at right now with Perry Caravello.
Right. And so what I love about it is, like, you never know if like they're just always continuously on, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful, like, it's improv life, pretty much. I really do think it is. But yeah, Perry's he's a funny character, man. He is, and he's like I said, he's completely always on. I would say you could definitely get him on your podcast if you keep it up, though. Just keep busting his ass about it, you know?
Well, you know what I told him in the response? I said to him, that's it. I'm going to flip the script on you, Perry. You're now blocked from all my social media channels.
Yeah,
and if you want to, and if you want to get back, it's going to cost you $10,000. So for everyone listening, that's Perry's usual threat, is that if they want him to do something, they have to pay him $10,000 in $100 bills. Like, I don't know why that number is always like what he goes to, but you know what? That's what I said to him, and he didn't respond back. And honestly, I was like, last Christmas, my mom asked me what I wanted, and she's like, do you want anything? And I said, well, I don't want anything too expensive. So I said, how about a Scary Perry skateboard? I'll get the skateboard, and it also help Perry out, right?
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be cool to put it up on my wall. I just put it in the wall of my office, and it would be a fun conversation piece. That's basically what I thought of it as. So I sent Perry this thing, and I said, please sign it. This to this, blah blah blah. He sends me the skateboard, didn't sign it. And then when I asked him about it, he says he has no clue who I am. I said, Perry, are you this fucking stupid, dude? And I realized, JP, yeah, I answered my own question. He is that stupid.
You answered your own question.
Yeah, so then his manager actually sent me these stickers that all the big three signed, and he's like, just put that on the board, and that can be the same thing. So now what I did was I'm going to have the board up unsigned, and I'm going to just have now I have another story to it about how this guy is too stupid to even sign a skateboard, which is his to begin with.
That's awesome.
So I wanted to talk JP. I mean, we could talk Windy City Heat and Big Three all day.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask, as we talk about, acting and stuff like that, is, I see you did American Horror Story, and did you get that gig while you were down in Louisiana?
Yeah. I had sent them probably 300 different emails, not really 300, but like close to it. And I know you're not supposed to send in that many emails to casting, but I figured, okay, this is a background gig, right? Like, you can't take yourself too seriously. So I dressed myself up like the demon from Insidious and sent those pictures in, and got an email or phone call like the next day, because they love those pictures. And they said that there was 30,000 submissions, and they only picked about 5 people in the end to be, carnies for the whole season. And that a lot of times when you're talking to an agent, they tell you should never do background. But my whole standpoint is everyone starts somewhere. If you either go to film school for 4 years and then you work as an intern, you bust your ass, and you take baby steps and you get somewhere and you're very, very proud of that place, or usually you just dream about it and everyone tells you all the time that you're not prepared, you're not ready, you can't do anything, blah, blah, blah. Well, my opinion on this is you should go and do whatever you can. If the only way you can get into film is to be a PA, then do it. If the only way you can get into a film is to be an extra, do it. I was on the podcast Cinema Squad last week, and they said something brilliant, which is they were talking with me and Micho, and Micho mentioned that you're constantly paving your own path. There's no direct path from any beginning or starting job in film to where you want to be. There's never a direct path. So no matter what you do, you're inventing your own way and your own story. So I'd say do it. If someone tells you not to be an extra, not to be background, do it, because it worked. And it if you pay attention to your career, you can start anywhere. So I'm on this thing, and they called me up, and they dressed us in our period piece costumes, and for the whole season we were there, and yeah, we were as background at first, but then they started pulling us into the foreground, and then they started becoming family, and we all were such close friends that we were hanging out and going to after parties together and stuff. And I was actually getting to work with some people like Evan Peters. Like, I got to actually talk to Evan one night, and he let me feel his lobster hands in that season. And then we ended up, becoming friends on a first name basis. Whenever I'd walk on set, he'd be like, "What's up, brother?" And that doesn't happen in real life, like that's like insane to me. So the fact that it happened just because I gave it a shot and just sent in those emails, even though I knew that it wasn't about ego. It was about just being a tiny part of something amazing that, I was inspired and, very, very grateful to be a part of. And I think because of that, because of just, throwing your ego aside and just knowing that your dream is to be able to see this happen. So as long as you live out that dream, don't ever think that, you need something more than that. And by doing that, coincidentally, I ended up landing roles, role after role. So I'm very happy for the American Horror Story thing. And a lot of people tell me, oh, you shouldn't talk about that in interviews. You shouldn't talk about American Horror Story because, it was a, featured background role. It wasn't, a spoken role, or it wasn't a credited role. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? It taught me more than most sets I've been on. So.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I've done background stuff. I'm not really an actor, but I've done background stuff. And, I was doing background on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which coincidentally enough, very rarely shoots in Philadelphia anymore. Because everything's out in LA. They just film out in LA. And then, if they need exterior stuff, they come back to Philadelphia here. But when I was filming on that show, I was background. Well, I was, just chilling out, and, all these actors were complaining that they weren't close enough to the camera. They were like, oh man, I can't wait to, I got to get home and call my agent. I'm never going to do this background stuff again. And I was like, look, yeah. And I said, you know what? I said, here's the way I looked at it. We got paid. We're all indoors in an air conditioned room, so we're not out in the sun toiling. I mean, that can be rough.
Yeah, I mean,
and you know what? And we were in a fine dining type of atmosphere. And I was like, you know what else? I said, this is actually pretty cool. And I actually ended up being this. They actually cut to me when I was walking by one time with this huge stuffed animal, and it was just the perfect time. And more people sent me texts when that aired than anything else I've ever done. I got inundated with people going, "Is that you?" And It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I'm like, "Yep, that's me. That's me."
Yeah, that's
of
cool.
Everything I've done, it's got to be that. But no, but you're absolutely right, JP. I mean, I'm the reason I was telling that story was I agree with you. It really is, and that is a great way to put it. Paving your own way. Yeah. Making sure because really, on episode 99 of this podcast, I had on. Oh Jesus! Now I just blanked out his name. Morgan J. Freeman. There we go.
Oh, cool.
I had Morgan J. Freeman on, and he actually had this term called greenlight yourself, and basically that just means you got to don't wait for anyone to actually say go ahead and do it. You go and do it, and and who's going to stop you? I mean, you can audition, create. I mean, and I want to talk about this too because I see you're a writer director, and I want to talk about that as well. And I mean that's what you got to do. You got to greenlight yourself.
Yeah, you do. You definitely do. No one's ever gonna just pop up one day and knock on your door and say, hey, we just had a feeling that you wanted to do this. I mean that seems to be what a lot of people dream about. They're like, oh man, I'd love to do that, and then they just sit back and dream about it. But honestly, yes. I mean, especially with Google or the internet, we as a generation or society are so very lucky that we can learn whatever we want to learn without physically having to leave our homes. So if you want to learn about something, it doesn't matter if you want to be a surgeon or a doctor or anything, you can at least start the steps of learning. You can look up what you need in order to get to the next step, and then you can try to accumulate those skills. For instance, if you want to be a famous chef at a restaurant, right, you need to know how to cook. If you've never cooked anything in your life, you can get on the internet and learn how to cook. And then at least whenever you go in for the big game or when you want to, prove yourself to someone who could give you that job you need, you can show them, look, I've been studying, I've learned, I'm not completely, illiterate to this.
Yeah, exactly. And when you said, the people who wait around oh yeah, I really would like to be an actor. I really would like to be a screenwriter. And they really don't ever go out to even try to do it. They just basically talk about it.
And I tell people, I'm like, look, if you really want to do something, just don't even claim wanting to do it unless you're going to take the steps to do it. Because what you're doing is people don't realize they hurt people's dreams. I've seen people who have a dream to do something awesome, and their friends who want the same thing but won't go after it will tear them down, and then they'll end up, being a fry cook for the rest of their life. And they don't like that job. They don't even want to do it. It's just a fact that they feel bad for actually taking the steps towards their dreams and towards their goals, because their peers are too afraid to do it themselves and tell them, oh yeah, you're wasting your time, or oh yeah, you need to grow up, you need to stop dreaming. And it's like, no.
Yeah, and it's also about that whole fry cook thing. It's almost like they become comfortable in that, in whatever their vocation is, or even where their life is. I've had friends who have, they got laid off from a job, or they got fired or whatever, and I said, this is a perfect time for you to start whatever passion project you want. And
exactly,
and they wouldn't do it though. They still wouldn't do it because there'd always be some kind of convenient excuse, if you know what I mean.
Convenient excuse, yeah. Yeah, I definitely do.
So, as we jump, I just want to jump back to, talk about your acting career. I see you were in Hot Pursuit. Did you were acting opposite of Sofia Vergara in that scene, right?
Yeah, Sofia and Reese. It was an awesome night. Not just because of the part itself, but just the fact that Anne Fletcher's like one of the most awesome and down to earth directors I've ever worked with, and she had done Guilt Trip with Seth Rogen and was it Barbra Streisand, I think. It's a great movie, and I hadn't seen it in a while, but she's a great director, and whenever I got to set, I thought I was, once again, the dream of being an actual actor or slowly making it into these scenes, it didn't feel real. It was like, yeah, okay, background makes sense to me, Like, you start getting used to it. Even though it's magic, you're on set, you're on these huge sets with these amazing actors, you're like, oh, I'm just background, or I'm just a PA, You feel like, oh, I'm here working. So it's like, you do feel kind of like the fry cook of set, still. You feel like you're at the bottom tier of the set, and I guess it's a way for your brain to, like, digest what you're seeing, like, oh, that's Sean Anders, but directing, Daddy's Home, that's Sean Anders, but, I'm just this, so it makes sense that I'm here, right? Like, it's kind of mind-blowing. So Anne Fletcher was the first director I worked with that literally told me and told the crew, I want to put him in this world. That's what she said. She's like, I want to put him in this world. I want him to be part of this scene. I want him to be part of this punchline. And then when they handed me my sides and I realized what I was doing that day, that I had to actually, like, it was a very intimate and awkward scene, and I had to stare at Sophia's tits in the scene, and I'm like, I don't even like saying that word because it feels disrespectful. Breast, cleavage, it all just, the fact that I had to do that in that scene is very embarrassing because that's not like me in real life, I'm not that kind of guy. But it happened, and I was trying to be very, polite about it. So I thought, okay, well, they're filming from behind me at one point. I can look at the counter. I can look at, her elbow or something else just to be polite. And even from behind me, the cinematographer was saying that the eye line wasn't right. And I'm like, how can the eye line not be right? You're filming from behind me. And he said, no, we can tell you're looking at her elbow. And Reese Witherspoon, she grabbed my hand and she goes, honey, just stare at her tits. And when Reese Witherspoon tells you to stare at Sofia Vergara's breast, it's kind of hard to argue with that. And it was a very awkward, few days. But my girlfriend, or my fiance actually, she was off set, sitting and holding, waiting for me to get out to clock out. And I go out to talk to her on lunch, and I showed her my sides, and that's when we found out, like, what I had to do for that weekend. And whenever she saw them, she started laughing, and she was like, I'm jealous. I wish that that could have been me in that scene. And it was just a great reaction from her, because I thought, this is the most awkward situation of my life. Like, it really is. But yeah, Anne Fletcher was an amazing director. Sophia was amazing, and I'm so glad that she didn't just slap me across the face, because it was like, that was a weird weird time for me. Reese Witherspoon was amazing, but Jim Gaffigan was there too, and he popped up out of nowhere. I didn't even know he was in the movie at the time, and he popped up, and he actually hacked my Vine account on that set, and he made a Vine for me, which was really cool. And I think that was the first time that I realized, I still, it was like a transitioning stage from being one of, the crowd in the background to actually being one of, the punchlines in the film or the joke. And that was the first time I started getting recognized was from that film. And, it's funny that you brought up High Pursuit, because like that actually is the movie that gave me this delusion that I could actually, become an actor, possibly. Like,
well, so I have to ask JP, how did he actually hack your Vine? How did he figure out your password?
Well, me and a couple of friends on Vine, well, actually, a lot of people on Vine do the hack my Vine, videos where you give your password to someone else and they get on and they make a video for you. So they don't really hack it like it's purposely like you gave it to them. But this was not as purpose. This was literally like he full on hacked it by taking the phone from me on set. They told me that my cell phone that I was using looked too much like Sophia's phone in the movie. So they gave me a different phone, a prop phone. And for people who aren't, part of Hollywood or haven't been on a big set or film yet, this is one of those amazing things that happens. The prop department pops up with a brand new iPhone, and they were pulling the plastic off of it as they were handing it to me. And they were like, all right, we just got the service on. You're going to be sitting here for a long time this weekend, so feel free to download apps, play video games on it, do whatever you want, go crazy. I was like, all right, cool. So I download Vine, and I know that we're not supposed to take pictures on set, and we're just very confidential. So I wasn't using Vine to make videos, but I was using Vine to communicate with some of my fans that I'd been talking to through Vine. Because before I did film, we were doing YouTube and Vine, and we were kind of making some pretty big tracks through those social media outlets, and it was fun and comfortable. But once film came around, it kind of stole us from that side of things. It stole us from the social media side of things and put us in a more professional atmosphere, and we started having less time to do Vine. So I'm on set and I'm just talking to some of our fans that were commenting on stuff, and Jim Gaffigan walks up and he sees that I'm on Vine. And I asked him, because I was following him on Vine, and I asked him, I said, why aren't you on Vine anymore? He said, oh, I'm not good at it. And all you guys, you're all making videos and, blowing people's minds with all this, like, Vine magic stuff. He's like, but all I do is videos of my book and my kids and stuff like that. And I was like, to be honest, a real fan of yours loves seeing the behind-the-scenes stuff. Like, whenever I saw you at your book signing and how you were just talking to people, I was like, that inspires people, because it makes us realize you are not only a real person that really cares about your fans, but you care about your family and your friends, and you have a Vine and you're actually just experimenting and catching some of your day-to-day life on it. It's really cool. And he goes, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. And he goes, are you on Vine right now? I was like, yeah. He goes, is that the prop phone? I don't, yeah. He goes, that is sneaky, man. He was like, it's pretty good. And he took the phone out of my hands and just made a Vine on my Vine account right there. And he was like, go ahead, post it. And I was like, that was probably one of the coolest things that, an actor that I'm inspired by had done, like, on set at that time. Because that was before American Horror Story and stuff.
So did he talk about his book or his kids on that Vine, or did he?
Actually, no. So surprisingly, no. And he didn't talk about food either. No, Jim, he grabbed the camera from me, grabbed the phone from me, and all he said was, Joe's a good guy, and he was in character. He was in the character of Red from the movie. He's like, Joe's a good guy. God bless you. It was really cool and funny and, really quick. And I think he was trying to do it really quick so that the production didn't yell at him about it too. But he was smart, and he only filmed him and the ceiling of the building. So it seems like he's just floating down from heaven as this cowboy who just shot his finger off, or is about to shoot his finger off. Spoiler alert. If you haven't seen Hot Pursuit.
well, thankfully, I have seen Hot Pursuit.
All right, cool.
So I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. That's great, and that was really what you use Hot Pursuit, where you actually said to yourself, I could actually be an actor. Yeah. I could actually do this for a living, and it was such a great experience. And then you got to go on to Vice Principals, that HBO show.
Yeah.
When you were that guy smoking weed, teen smoking weed. Yeah. So what was that whole experience like? I mean, did you get to work? Did you get to work a lot with Danny and?
It was crazy. I talk to people sometimes about it. I'm like, yeah, once you fall like hard into acting and you bust your ass, it doesn't matter what roles you get as long as you take them seriously, and then at the same time know when not to take them too seriously. Like depending on your role and what you have to do. Someone told me one time the point is to get the job done, and then you worry about doing it well. And it makes a lot of sense. It sounds kind of weird at first, but it makes a lot of sense because if you're worrying too much about, like, oh yeah, I'm just a PA, I'm just a background, and you're trying too hard to do an over the top job, you don't really focus on what the job is. Like a lot of times they will cast these parts because guess what? And it sucks to say it, you just fit the look. Like they casted me for Hot Pursuit. I'm pretty sure because they were like, this is the closest thing we can get to an Indian kid. Like, right away, the closest thing we can get to an Indian kid. But and it was one of those things where it's like, it was still magical to me, but the goal is always, especially for an actor or an actress that really is taking it serious, your goal is to bring someone to tears or to make someone laugh till their stomach hurts. Just make someone smile or get them through their day, because movies do the same for you. That's your goal. But it doesn't happen right away. You get put into a movie where, to be honest, you might get your stuff cut out completely. You should be honored if you even make it to the final cut. So I was bouncing around from like film to film and getting some parts that were recognizable that were in the trailer. And that's one thing I couldn't even understand how all the parts that I was getting that could have been casted, to anyone. Like I didn't even have to audition for those types of roles. They were getting thrown into the trailer. So I was really excited about that, and I was like, well, you can't use that as a demo reel. Being honest, and trying to be like a modest person, you can't use background stuff for a demo reel. It just looks stupid. It just looks very ignorant to do that. So I had this stuff that was inspiring me, like, yeah, that one time I got to, work with these people. That one time I got to work with these, these actors, and it was inspiring me to continue, but it was also making me go, man, but everything that I've done so far, it's like, can I use that? Can I talk about it? And whenever I did Vice Principals, it was a change of pace. It was the first time that I had to audition with something. I'd had to send in an audition, and then I had to send in 2 auditions, and it was amazing. At first, I auditioned for I don't remember what role it was for that production, but I auditioned for something else, and they called me and emailed me back and asked my agent to get me to audition for the weed smoking teen. And I was like, this is amazing, like they don't tell you anything. They don't tell you who's in it. They don't tell you who the actors are. They don't tell you anything. You have to do the research yourself. That's part of your job, So I went and researched the production, and it was going by a code name, I think, too. And I found out that here, Danny McBride and Walton Goggins have paired up for a buddy comedy series, and they're these characters, and it matched the characters in the audition, because they don't want you to think too hard about who you're acting with. They don't want you to think about who you're going to be in the scene with, because I guess it'll give off the wrong idea. That an actor will get the wrong idea, or they'll play it off differently. I guess it's just, and it is better for us. I am grateful whenever I get to do an audition and I have no idea who I'm going to get on set with, and then I pop up on set and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. But with this one, I felt like I want this part. I want to get this part. It's a funny role. The script was written very well, so I want this part. So whenever I found out it was Danny and Walton, and I found out it was Jody Hill, I was able to go, all right, I'm a big fan of Eastbound and Down, huge fan of Eastbound and Down, and so what can I do to better myself for this role, and, and figure out exactly what Jody Hill wanted from this character, even though it is like, it was a short-lived character, but it was a speaking role. So I went back and I started, watching old films and watching things that Danny McBride had been in interviews and said, this film inspired me, and trying to become the actor that fit their cast, because the cast they had for Vice Principals was amazing. Busy Phillips and many amazing comedian actors, So I watched Eastbound and Down again, kind of, got back into that head space where, Eastbound and Down is a dark comedy for those who haven't seen it, and at the same time, I know that Danny McBride, he's an amazing actor. He's not going to do the same old character. He's not going to do what was his character's name from Eastbound and Down? Do you remember? There's so many names in my head right now that I have to.
Yeah, I know that sometimes I blank out too because I have so many things.
Kenny Powers.
Yeah, it's like
and I knew if Danny McBride, and I'll give him props because he's exactly as talented as you think he is. He did not bring Kenny Powers back. He brought Neil Gamby to life. It's a completely different character. He still has his vulgar dialogue because that's what he adds to it. Is like he can drop an F-bomb and it's just the best F-bomb you ever heard in your life. But like it's a new character, Neil Gamby. And once I was in that headspace, I did the audition. But the funny thing about the audition is they said, here's your situation. Neil Gamby's walking up. He's the principal. You're a student. And run with it. We want you to improv a scene. So they didn't give us sides for this. They just wanted us to improv. So I improv'd the scene, and about a week went by. I didn't hear anything, and I'm in the hospital, right? And it's funny because I was talking to my girlfriend about this. For some reason, whenever I'm going to get a call back for a part, I get constipated. Like, I don't know why, but I do. I don't care. We'll talk about everything. She's over here like, why are you talking about this right now? But no, I do. Like, and I get like stomach pains and just like I don't know what it is, and I'm like I got put in the ER one time because it was like that bad, and it didn't feel like something that was easily passable. It was like it felt like a kidney stone, and I'd had those before, and like it felt like that. It felt like something really bad. So I'm sitting in the hospital. And I get a phone call from my agent, and he's like, yep, just got a call. Danny said he loved your audition, and they want you on the show. And I'm like, get out of here. So it's like instantly, like the stomach pain I had, it automatically was like consoled. It started, disappearing. And I was like, how did my body know what was going on before I knew? That's so crazy. It was just like this, I guess it was this intense feeling of like the universe and like planets aligning or something. Because when my agent called me, he was smitten about it. He's like, man, yeah, we've been talking for a few hours. Sorry, it took me a while to get back to you. And I was like, yeah, I'm in the hospital right now. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, man. You want me to call him back and tell him you won't be able to make it because you got to get a car right now or get on a plane. You got to get up there in the next 2 days. You got to be in South Carolina. And I'm like, you know what? It's cool. And I just changed out of the hospital robe in the hospital and took off running. And I was like, man, it's weird that, we never expect to actually make it or break it. We never expect to get a chance to show that we care about, something, or we have a big goal in mind, that we want to actually achieve one of our dreams. We never get the chance to do that. And when the chance comes, you might be in the hospital, or you might be at work working that double, and your boss tells you, if you take off, you're going to lose your job. And you're thinking, yeah, this is just, an audition, or this is just a callback. I don't even know if I got the job. But I say, fuck it. Go for it. Quit your job. If that's what your real goal is in life, is to work with Danny McBride or work with someone that you're inspired by, fucking quit your job. Get another job, especially if your job is at, an outlet store. There are plenty of outlet stores. And unless you aspire to be like the next outlet store owner, what the fuck are you doing? Like, it doesn't matter what your job is. Don't put us out. Do not chicken out just because, oh, well, I don't know if it's worth it. We never know if it's worth it. Like, we never do. But I can tell you this. They cut that role down so much, and I'm still grateful that they even had me in it. I mean, they ended up giving me a co-starring credit, which was more than I was even casted for. I was supposed to be like just a under 5, I think it was, or something like that. Well, I get to set, and they put me in a harness, and they're like, yeah, you're going to be doing a stunt today. And I didn't even know I was going to be doing a stunt. Which, I mean, maybe off the record, off the podcast, I can tell you about some of the funny things that happened with that. But out of respect for HBO, I won't talk about that part. But, yeah. But, so I did the stunt all day, and it was amazing. I'm doing the stunt, and I'm hanging out with Danny. Danny walks up to me and introduces himself to me. Walton introduces himself to me. And then from then on, we were just, cracking up the whole night. Like, I think that was like a 14-hour day for me, or 15-hour day for me. And, I saw the sun go down and come back up, put it that way. And it was a great experience, man. And originally, if you saw that episode, it was episode 4, Run for the Money, episode 4, Vice Principals on HBO. That scene and my character in that scene ended up becoming the poster for the episode on IMDb. And when it comes out on Netflix, I don't know, but it was really cool because Danny and Walton are tripping on LSD in the scene, or Neil Gamby and Russell are tripping on LSD accidentally in the scene, and some amazingly funny things happen. You're gonna have to see it, and I'm sure you've heard about it if you're a fan of Vice Principals, or if you have friends that are fans. A lot of people have said that's like their favorite tripping scene from anything, and I'm just graced with this opportunity to be at the climax of that scene, which is really funny. But when they walked underneath the bleachers, my character hits a joint and then looks over at my scene partner and goes, "Did you know that Belinda sucks dicks?" Because at the top of the episode, Russell and Gamby are sitting on the bleachers and they're vandalizing the bleachers with a permanent marker. And he says, he's like, "Russell, you vandalizing the bleachers? You shouldn't be doing that." And then Gamby goes, "You know what?" And he scratches out Jacksonville sucks dicks and he replaces it with Belinda sucks dicks, which is the principal that deserves the job, that got the job, and these two vice principals. The whole show is about these two vice principals being very jealous that they didn't get the job, but in reality, they're just terrible human beings, and they don't realize that they don't deserve the job, And I'm not going to give away too much, but it's a great show. It really is. I'm blessed to be a part of it. But they ended up cutting out the line, and as an actor, a lot of my friends that are actors that had, gotten their line cut one time, they said, "Fuck it," and they just quit. Like, they got so mad. Like, I worked my ass off and I had the speaking role and it was a big deal and it got cut and fuck it, they just, and I feel bad for them because what they don't get is it's not about the end result. It's not about the outcome. It's not about the fans that see the show. And to be honest, the fans that see the show are going to see the show because of Danny and Walton. This is their show. This is Danny and Walton's show, and they do a great job, and they pull out some emotions in us that we didn't know were there, because most of the time your favorite actors play your favorite characters. And with Danny, he's really good at being one of your favorite actors that plays like one of the biggest assholes, he always plays like one of the biggest assholes in movies, and he does it so well. But when you meet him in real life, he's like one of the sweetest fucking people you can ever meet in your life. He's one of the nicest people. So when you're on set and you're like working with these people, that's the end goal right there. That is the point, because that is making you better at your job. That is teaching you what you need to learn to succeed and to get the next job. If you make it to the end cut, if you're not, on the editor room floor or whatever, if you make it to the end cut, that's just, what we call in Louisiana lagniappe. It's just a little something extra, like it really is. And so yeah, the line got cut from the end game, but the character was there, and the scene was very Tarantino-esque. It was minimal dialogue, an awesome, like, really trippy soundtrack, and I couldn't have seen this scene going any better if they added the dialogue in. It wouldn't have been the same. So I appreciate the fact that I even made it to end cut and became a very, the climax of that scene. But when I was watching the end credits, and my friend told me, he's like, "Hey, did you see the end credits? See if they credited you?" And I was like, "No, they didn't. I know. I was billed and wasn't credited. So I'm pretty sure I'm not there." He's like, "I think you should watch it." So I turned on the end credits, and sure enough, they gave me a co-starring credit, and it was like the most heartfelt thing that anyone had ever done. Like, at that point in my career, like, I talked to Jody Hill at South by Southwest, and my band was performing at South by Southwest this year, so I went up there a little early and tried to catch the Vice Principal's premiere, and it was sold out. And I told the guy at the door, I was like, "I'm actually in this," and he goes, "Damn!" And he looked at my IMDb page and he goes, "That's so cool, man." He's like, "Well, congrats, but yeah, we still can't let you in. Fire marshal code." I was like, "No, that's cool." And I told Jody, I was like, "Yeah, I'm actually not bummed about it. I mean, it's a good thing if the premiere sells out. Like, that's ridiculous. That's so cool, especially for a new show, not a show that's like, Preacher sold out at South by Southwest, their premiere. But I mean, of course it did. It's Preacher. It's Seth Rogen, and it's a comic book adaptation. It's going to. But even though it's Danny McBride and even though it's Jody Hill, the name vice principals on the schedule on South by Southwest, people will have to look it up and know about it and stuff like that, you know, in order to schedule that around their big day that they already have planned at South by Southwest. And for people to come from out of country and out of state and, you know, purposely come there just to see that premiere, I mean, I couldn't be happier, man. Like, I was outside, you know, wishing that I can get into the premiere of something I was actually in, and still wasn't mad. Still wasn't mad that I paid $120 for the film tickets to South by Southwest, because we had, you know, music passes. But, you know, if you ever been to a big festival or been part of a big festival, it doesn't matter how big of a part of the festival you are. If you're on the main stage, you're still not getting passes to the film, you know, the film sanctioned part of the festival. Like, they want their money. Yeah. So, but it was a great experience, man. And I after seeing, you know, the end result, seeing that episode, and then seeing that my character was actually the poster for the episode on IMDb, I was like, this is why we do it. We don't do it for, you know, instant gratitude, or we don't do it for instant fame. You know, real actors, people that are going through it, you don't want instant fame. You don't want to. I mean, it's one thing to be recognized, for people to go, oh yeah, I saw you in that. That's so cool. But you don't want to instantly get a lead role or, you know, a supporting role before you've been on set. Trust me, that is a difficult thing to happen. For anyone who is like, yeah, I've never even been an actor, and I did this audition and got this role, and I was, you know, the lead actor in this huge show, I look at them as like a brave person, a very brave and very strong person, especially if they made it out, you know, on top, because there's so much you have to learn about being on set. There's, you know, the language on set. You don't want to, like, lose an eye because you turned around and got hit in the head with a track, you know, because you weren't listening. Like, there's so much that you have to learn, and I'm grateful that I could start off in such a small position on these productions and then work my way up and actually, you know, slowly start making some, you know, legway, like actually getting somewhere. And it's awesome, man. I'm glad to have been on Vice Principals, and I'm glad that you asked about it. That's cool. I'm bringing up old memories.
Yeah, well, that's what I try to do, JP. I'm actually going to cut all your lines out of this podcast, though.
Oh, yeah, you know, it's cool. It's cool.
It'll just be me talking to myself, basically.
Oh, good. Cool.
But no, I mean, you know, as I'm listening to you talk, JP, like everything that you say, I'm like, man, that's a great nugget of information. That's gold. And I'm thinking about, and I'm like, Jesus, I was like, this guy's like poetic almost. And everything you say, I mean, like, seriously, I mean, when you're a director or a producer, right, you're always looking for actors with good attitudes. Because I mean, there's a guy I'm going to have on, who knows when, but he actually used to work with a couple people who were on The Sopranos.
Oh, cool.
And he said there was one actor, though, that I forget, I even forget who it was, but he had a reputation for always wanting to disrupt a scene.
Right.
And I'm going to have this guy on, not the actor, but the director had to work with him. And he said eventually, he goes, you know, the guy worked well with him, but then at the end, he was like, well, that's a wrap. He goes, what do you mean it's a wrap? And he got mad because he didn't have a chance to disrupt the scene yet, because apparently they said he's a talented actor, but all of a sudden he'll just snap. It wasn't like any of the, it wasn't like Gandolfini or anything like that, but it was like somebody, but you know, and that's the. You know, that's just the thing, was this guy had this reputation of being very hard to work with. And you know, that's why eventually he said they was doing this, because at that point it was like a student film. He said he had to do that because so many people didn't want to work with him, producers and directors, because of this reputation.
Yeah, that sucks, man. I mean, it's weird, because the one thing that I've learned is we are all human beings, and we're all real people, and yes, some of us might have had a big opportunity, and that's how they got in a film. You know, they just woke up one day and someone said, "Hey, man, I'm doing this. You want to be part of it?" And they're like, "Yeah, I guess so." It happens sometimes, and it's insane that happens. But not everyone is blind to the struggles of chasing your dream. You know, even the most successful people have moments where they weren't sure if they were just wasting their time, you know? And I've talked to some people, and they've told me, you know, like, yeah, there was this one time where I was about to just throw in the towel. And that's what opened me up to, wow, you know, we should just never give up on ourselves. We only have one life to live, no matter what you do. Even if I know some people that are extras, and they've been extras for 60 years, and they own a home, they have a house doing this, and they have friends who are very successful friends, but they are happy where they are. And that, to me, that is success. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. said, success is a mindset. It's being okay with ourselves and what we do. That's it. And when you think about it that simply, it just blows your mind, because that is what it is. Like, you could have, $1 million in your pocket, and you could have a lead role in this film that has, many fans. But at the end of the day, you're a human being, and you made art with a bunch of human beings. And even though the art is amazing to some, there will be a mass group of people that disagrees with what you do. And there will be a mass group of people that tells you you're doing it wrong every day. And for these people who are, to us, they're super huge, famous people. To them, they're working constantly. They are constantly working. So all they see are the same people every day. And all they see are the same sets, and, maybe different sets, but like they see the same crews for months, and, it's hard work, and they're busting their ass to, get their paychecks. So to them, they question themselves, and they wonder, like, what are they doing? What, like, they could be, going here or going there, or they could be doing this. Some of them want to be famous chefs, and they got thrown into being actors. But to everyone else, that's a dream job, and they feel like they would be failing people if they, quit and went and became a chef, even though they have the ability to do it finally. So you do get stuck into this cog work where you're like, oh, you're blessed to be there, don't fuck it up, and I don't think that's very fair for people in either, side of things. Like, and this actually goes really well with, like, being a podcast, creator. There's a lot of podcasts out there. Like, I'm sure you've heard from people like, yeah, why is your podcast different? Your podcast is different because somehow you get your podcast interviewees to talk about some stuff that, big people on top are probably going to be mad at me about, saying, like, yeah, you should go be an extra. Like, they don't want to hear that. But do I give a fuck? No, because your podcast is pretty fun to be on, man.
Oh, thank you, JP. I appreciate that,
So
man.
keep doing what you do, man.
Well, JP, I wanted to ask, you have a new movie out called, Follow Friday. I wanted to ask, about your role, and I wanted to ask you, could you tell us a little bit about the movie?
I think, we've been talking enough about the start of it anyways. Yeah. The movie's called #Follow Friday. And it's not written out hashtag unless you're on DirecTV, but it's Follow Friday. And it's the same guys and gals that did Sharknado 1, 2, 3, and 4, Dead 7, what else? Z Nation. Our director, Micho Rotari, is actually a 5-time writer for Z Nation. And, they do a lot of really awesome mockbuster movies. So they'll take, like, Jaws and turn it into Sharknado. They'll take Suicide Squad and turn it into Sinister Squad, which, seamlessly is not even ripping off of Suicide Squad at all, except for the name, except for the title. So if you like cheesy mockbuster movies, you'll love The Asylum. But Follow Friday is, at least, what I've been hearing from people and from other podcast interviews that I've been in, it's their serious take at, an issue, but still adding the asylum flair. Like, you watch the movie, everyone is on their cell phones in the film. Literally every single person in this film is on their cell phone. But is that too far-fetched from real life? Like, everyone is on their cell phones all day long in real life. Like, you walk down the street in Santa Monica, or, you walk down Hollywood Boulevard, and you have, like, 1,000 tourists, but they're all taking pictures with their cell phone. Like, everyone is constantly on their cell phone. So it's a big issue, because we do pull ourselves away from the things that we want out of life, and we don't even realize that cell phones are that much of a fucking distraction. They really are. Like, you should use them as you would a knife in the kitchen. You use it as a tool to, make a boring day a little bit more fun. If you're at the DMV, you pull out your cell phone. You shouldn't pull out your cell phone at a family dinner, or you shouldn't pull out your cell phone in the theater. There's some things that we really need to teach the next generations before, they come up. And I think Micho and Marie, the writer, she did a great job at telling this story. and it came out on Sci-Fi. It had its world premiere on Sci-Fi. Was it this past Thursday at midnight? So Friday. It was Follow Friday at 1 a.m. and it was a beautiful premiere. We had a lot of fun online on Twitter. Some really funny tweets back at us about the film. But the film follows Nabila Nariman, who is Courtney Lakin from the originals, and she actually she posted this, so I guess I can talk about it. We're proud of her. She's doing so great, and she actually has a role on Sleepy Hollow that's coming out pretty soon, which is really cool.
Oh wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean she's a great actress, and it follows her story. She was a writer in college that wrote an article that was looked at as it ruined the NCAA tourney for their college, and it ruined some of these college basketball players' careers, and they all hated her, and they really wanted to tear her down. So she threw away her phone. So she's the only character in the beginning of the movie that does not have a smartphone. She has a flip phone, and that's how the movie starts. And then you're watching all of these people on their smartphones kind of propagate this online internet hate towards each other, and then this profile pops up, which the profile voice is played by Dylan Vox. So if you're a Z Nation fan or an Asylum fan, Sharknado fan, you'll know Dylan Vox. He's a great producer and a great actor. He's a great guy all around. But so Dylan Vox's voice pops up whenever you hear the killer's account. So it's at Bleed You on Twitter, and whenever you get followed by that account or you get followed Friday'd, you become really popular on Twitter, and then you die. That's the whole premise of the movie. But it's really, really cool because it feels so real. And Micho said it in the last interview we did together. He said that it evolved into this. They weren't planning on it. It was just supposed to be a slasher, but they just happened to get a cast of young actors that really did care about the film and really did want to see it succeed. I mean, they do get actors that want to see stuff succeed, but sometimes you have millions of actors out there, and sometimes you do run into the occasional person that's so content with where they are that you just have this thing that's fun and it's there and it doesn't take itself too seriously, but then every once in a while you kind of you'll cast someone and you won't realize that these actors are about to just give you 150%, they're dying for the chance to show that this is their goal in life, is to be able to act. And it was a magical thing that happened. I think Micho is an insanely awesome director, and I think that the magic that happened on set and the fact that we all got to be part of an Asylum film, that's like a dream come true already, but at the same time it's I haven't heard one person, and I figured it because a lot of my friends back home, a lot of those people that are jealous because they never got off their ass and did anything, they're like, oh yeah, and you reach out a hand, you're like, you could work with our crew, you just got to work, and they sit back and they're like, no, I'd rather just talk about how you guys don't deserve it. Those people had said, oh, but it's just an Asylum film. Oh, but I didn't even like Sharknado. What? If you don't like Sharknado, you're missing the point. They don't take themselves too seriously, and Sharknado is hilarious. It's funny, it's amazing, and the cameo appearances are just perfectly on point. And I mean, when you have this many people that are just having a fun time doing something, you got to respect that. It's so good. So if you don't like Sharknado, I understand you probably just don't like life, period. So that's whatever. But this movie's not like Sharknado. And whenever I had that in my head, everyone telling me all day long, oh, it's an Asylum film, it's an Asylum film, I had this kind of stigma about it. And I was like, man, we did so much work. We went across the country. We worked so hard on this film. And then to hear people say, oh, it's just an Asylum film, it's just this, it's just that, that really will tear you down as a professional in anything you want to do, any career. If someone tells you, oh, all that months of hard work you did, it's just this, or it's if they explain it as, oh, it's not going to do anything for you, you're wasting your time. I mean, we have to, I know it's been said, but we have to see that as what it really is. And what really is people literally don't want someone else to succeed if they're too afraid to succeed themselves. And that really is a bad thing for anyone in this industry or any entertainment, any part of the entertainment industry, music, no matter what it is. If someone tells you, oh, all of that, work you did, it's just this. It's not important, I think every role in a film is important.
Yes. A casting director once told me, JP, she said, if you weren't important, the producer wouldn't have you there.
Yes.
And because people were complaining to her, like, all we have is background work. And she said, look, if you weren't important, the producer wouldn't have you there.
Yeah.
Believe me, because producers will always look at the bottom line and say, what can we cut from this?
Yeah.
How can we do this a little leaner and meaner?
Yeah.
And, I remember when I used to do another podcast. And one time we got free passes out of nowhere. We got free passes to go to this like Comic-Con type thing. And they were like, why don't you guys come there? You guys can, not only, do a show from there, but also go around, meet people. Do you want to have any celebrities on? And I was like, holy shit. I was like, this is going to be awesome. So I'm trying to get the other guys to go. And the other guys were like, no, I don't know if you want to go. I was like, holy shit. I was like, you guys kidding? I was like, you kidding me? I was like, what the hell are we doing this for? So then, as I said, I got free passes. I had this friend I used to talk to. He sends me a message, and because I said I got free passes, and he sent me this like message, and he said, "Oh, well, I guess if I want free passes, I should just start a shitty podcast." And I sent him a message back. I'm like, "Look, I understand you're frustrated because you don't have any drive and you're too lazy, but I was like, don't take it out on me. I was like, I don't owe you shit. You don't owe me shit. That's it." And then he sent me back this real long apology email, and I was like, you know what, motherfucker? I was like, if you want to be that way, I was like, fine, but I don't hold a grudge or anything. You don't need to apologize. But if you want to be, Mr. Snarky or whatever, then you can just do your own thing. I don't care.
I mean, I think it's self-sabotage too. Like, there's a lot of people that say, this is what I want out of life, and then somehow they have the opportunity and they still don't do it. And then you us as good people, because you sound like a good guy, we see people that literally sabotage themselves, and we feel bad about it. Though we're like, why wouldn't they go for it? Like, are we crazy? Like, why wouldn't they go for their dream? It was right there, and they just told it no. They just looked at their dream in the eyes and said, nah. Like, it makes no sense to me.
It's almost like their dream has to come gift wrapped by like a team of supermodels, and it has to, you know what I mean? And it's like, if the goal is so easy that it's almost like they want someone to carry them over the finish line. Right. And it's almost like let's run a marathon, but I want you to carry me from the starting line to the finish line. and I'm going to at the end say I deserve all this because I was able to, even convince people to cross me over the finish line or some crap. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's why I have a problem with like certain things, like some of the self-help stuff that's out now. It's almost like if you wish it and you want it enough, it'll happen. It's like, wait, what? If I wish it, it'll happen. No, a positive mental attitude, but you got to have that hard work aspect of it.
You got to bust your ass. And I mean, it's you were talking about writing and directing. If you want to talk about that, we do have a film coming up, and I'd like to hash about that for a second if you're interested.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, well, speaking of the hard work and busting your ass, one of my biggest goals in life, my biggest dream, more than acting, was to be a creative writer in some sense. I'd always submit it to, like, publications and, try to get a writing job like that. And I think the best kind of writing, whether it be music writing or film or anything, the best kind of writing usually comes from desperation. When you hear about a new writer or a new, director, and they were having hard times in their life, and then boom, they had this like hit idea that came out of nowhere. It's desperation. It's like one of those things. It's like, I really want this, and your dream's right there. You got to go for it. You have to write that 107-page script. You have to get it done. You have to do it. You can't write it over like a 2-3 year period. You have to get it done. You can't keep telling yourself, I'm going to finish it. You can't be like Brian from Family Guy. You got to actually do it. So, yeah, so like I got this script, and I finally like finished the script, got it written, showed it to a few people. I can't name everybody that, is interested in working on it now, but people might see this as like, oh yeah, of course you got a lead role in a film, so of course you have this movie coming out. That's not how it works, though. In real life, that's not how it works. It's still busting your ass hard work. No matter what little stepping stones you get the blessing of being able to jump from one thing to another, but it's just working to get there. And so we finished the script. It's called Death Cab. It's a dark comedy thriller. And I sent it to a buddy of mine, Chad Rook, who plays the Weather Wizard in The Flash. And he plays Boyle in War of the Planet of the Apes, and he's going to be in the new NBC series Timeless. And I don't know if you're familiar with Chad Rook. He's a great actor, dude. Do you watch The Flash at all?
I don't, but I know who Chad is, though.
Oh, well, for those listening that watch The Flash, he's the Weather Wizard, and like I said, he's a great guy. And he read the script, and he called me up, or he actually emailed me, and he said, yeah, brother, this is amazing. If you could get me to play a character in this, who would it be? And at that point, I was like, and this was before I even knew that he was going to be the Weather Wizard in The Flash and stuff. Like, I just knew him as like Chad, one of my friends' that popped up in iZombie. And I was like, whoa, he's an amazing actor. So he's like, if you can get me to play a character in this, who would it be? And I was like, Theremin, the antagonist. I think that'd be great. That'd be a cool, dynamic. And he's like, that's who I was hoping you'd say. I love that character. And so he got me to, talk to his agent. We started talking about what was the plans and the goals and our outlets for this film. And he came back to me with a contract, and he said, can you sign this with me? It just, it just goes to show that I'll agree to do the film. You agree to get it done, and agree that I'm going to be this character. And I was blown away. I was like, man, he really wants that character. And it shows that, like, if you bust your ass and you do something and you do it, even if it's out of desperation, and that desperation of like, I want to write, I want to do this. If you just get it done, it's like Field of Dreams, man. It really is. It's not, you can't wish for something, but if you build it, it will, it's a shelter in itself. Like you have to build onto something, you have to start from nothing and build something, have something to show for, have some kind of work or something that you've been doing,
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I just was talking to Robert Rodriguez's producing partner, Aaron Kaufman, and we were talking about that, getting started and, where do you start from? Well, nowadays, you and I can grab a camera and we can sort of make our own movie. And we can maybe put it on YouTube, you know what I mean? And build an audience that way. I use the podcast because, I'm not too pleasing to the eye. So I thought I'd see people like my, maybe would, an audio show would be a lot better, right? So, but it's just about, building an audience, finding out, what works for you. I mean, honestly, JP, do you know what Red Letter Media is?
I've heard of it.
Well, it's funny because, Red Letter Media, I actually, years ago, even before they started, I said, I told my friends we should get cameras in here, record ourselves watching bad movies, and then discuss them. And they were like, who the hell's going to watch that? And then now look at Red Letter Media. That's what they do. And I'm so jealous because I'm like, man, look at these guys. And it's just, it's something that I wanted to do. But, that's what I mean. And there's going to be a little series I was thinking about starting for free. And basically at the beginning of each podcast or maybe even articles discussing about, making their own films, how to actually do this piece. You know what I mean? Like just getting in that nitty gritty aspect of it. And that's, absolutely phenomenal, man, about, everything that you're up to. I mean, JP, we've been talking for like over an hour now. We crushed this. No, it's fine, man. We just crushed this interview, man. JP, in closing, is there anything that we didn't discuss that maybe you wanted to talk about or anything you wanted to say to sort of put a period at the end of this whole conversation? Well,
I can say this. I kind of take advantage of the whole just dropped my manager thing, so I'm able to say whatever I want on a podcast. so I'll say this. Have you heard of Eliza Schlesinger? No. I'm your manager. All right. Okay. I'm getting told that I can't talk about that. I'll talk to you about that off the record. But
okay.
But, I have a stand-up chunk, I guess you can say, that I'm going to be able to perform November 13th at the Comedy Store in the main room. Part of Crazy Cindy's show, Cindy Leibman. It's her new show, Cindy Leibman and Company. And Sarah Silverman was on the show, so I'm honored to be part of it. It's amazing that she called me up and said, "Yep, November 13th. I want to see you Sunday, November 13th at the Comedy Store in the main room." So I'm not really I'm not really one to plug things. I like conversation, but I do have to talk about that. And I do have to say, go to givelouisianalove.com, because I am a Louisiana native. And last time I lived out here, like I said, we moved back to Louisiana and we were doing great out there. And, film, work, everything was amazing out there. And then these floods hit a couple months ago, and the apartment we were staying at, last month, the apartment that we were staying at went underwater, and our roommates and their twins lost all their clothes, everything they owned. Multiple family members of ours lost their houses. I think like 175,000 people in Denham Springs or in Livingston alone lost their houses, and it looks like a war zone. Like, our home state is a beautiful place, but right now it's a sad place to be because everyone lost their jobs. Like, the water in Denham Springs was above the Walmarts there. It was terrible. So there's this charity, they're givelouisianalove.com, and you can go there. You can donate brooms, anything, clothes, furniture, or money, anything you can to help people who really need it right now.
Excellent. I will make sure, JP, to put that in the show notes. Really cool, that shout out, by the way. And I will, get everyone put that in the show notes for givelouisianalove.com.
Yeah.
And JP, where can people find you out online?
You can find me at Instagram, Josie Poliquin, JoeySyPoliquin. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see links to all my other social media stuff.
Cool, and I will also link to that in the show notes. Everyone, DaveBullis.com. Twitter, it's at Dave_Bullis. Instagram, I have no idea what it is. I think it's like I think it's Dave.Bullis. I can't remember. But I'm on Instagram and Twitter far more than like Facebook or whatever. But JP, thanks a lot, man, for coming on.
Thank you for having me, man. It was fun. Sorry I was talking so much.
No, believe me, man, it's more than fine, dude. I had a freaking blast doing this.
Me too, man. Me too.
And everyone, again, I will link to all this in the show notes. JP, I wish you the best of luck, man, and you should come back on sometime.
Oh, definitely.
Cool, buddy. Take care.
You too.
Find Dave at davebullis.com. Please make sure to subscribe and share the podcast.